Hello everybody, hope you're doing well. Today I wanted to participate in Book Trek 2025 again, and I wanted to review another Star Trek novel, which I picked up a few of these recently. This event was started by Revenant Reads. It goes through the summer, June, July, August, and like I said, I thought I would participate this year and read some Star Trek over the summer. So this time I read Legacy by Michael Jan Freidman. This book was published in 1991, I believe. So, yeah, 1991. This book is set during the original 5-year mission of the Enterprise. I believe the book even mentions it's like towards the end, the final year of the mission. So we're with the original crew, and this was overall, I enjoyed this novel. It was entertaining for the most part, I would say. Talk a little bit about the plot of it. So it begins with the Enterprise. Kirk and his crew land to survey a planet, and things go wrong immediately on this planet where Kirk and some other people in the crew are trapped. They're in a rocky region of caves, and they become trapped inside a cave. Meanwhile, Spock encounters a tentacled monster who injects Spock with poison that almost kills him. All right. So, meanwhile, you have another plot thread going with there's a colony of the Federation has been under attack by a mercenary or marauder, I believe he's called Dreen, Dreen, Dreen. He wants to steal all of the ore or the mining resources from this colony and take it over. So, and meanwhile, back at the Enterprise, the admirals call the Enterprise that you have to go to this planet and take care of this situation, restore the Federation's control over the colony. At this point, Scotty is in charge of the Enterprise, so he has to leave Kirk and the crew that are trapped on this planet and go fix this problem at a colony. So Beta Cabrini is the name of the colony. And you can see on the cover of the book here, so we have Spock on the forefront, who is, I guess this is more of a Spock novel, and that is the villain of the story, Dreen, who I mentioned, the Marauder, as he's called, or mercenary. And in the back is Captain Pike, as kind of the Jeffrey Hunter likeness there. And Captain Pike, who was the commander of the Enterprise, was the predecessor of Captain Kirk, and Pike plays a peripheral role in the story in an interesting way. So I thought what worked for the book is that you had 3 storylines going. You had Kirk and the people are trapped with him in the survival story, where they have to figure out how to escape from this cave and get to the surface again. So we have very classic survival story. We have the story on the colony where Dreen has taken over and is ready for a fight with the Federation. And there's also the plot with Spock, who has been who has this awful toxin inside his system, and whether he can survive this or not. So what happens is McCoy is really unable to help Spock that much because he doesn't understand the toxin, and it seems to be shutting Spock's organs down. So he's in really bad shape. But we have a plot thing come in where Spock, through his mental discipline, is able to compose himself and fight off the toxin. But temporarily. He can only do this temporarily, and enough so Spock can take command of the Enterprise and go deal with the situation at the colony. And that's what happens. And Dreen and Spock have a history which brings in the Captain Pike part of the story. When Pike was in command of the Enterprise, they had a bit of a clash with Dreen before, and that is what brings them together. So I thought all three of the plot threads moved at a decent pace. I guess my main criticism with the book would be that Dreen is kind of a one-dimensional villain. He's basically just greedy and cruel, and wants power and and to take over this colony, which seems like a foolhardy mission. And he is quite easily outsmarted by his hostages. And once Spock comes into the picture, he's also outsmarted. So, not the greatest villain. I thought maybe the author was going for like a Khan type villain, but this character just didn't have much charisma about him. So that was that. But overall, the story moved well, and the Captain Pike side of it, where to go really deep into Star Trek lore, going back to the original series, where Pike was in the pilot, but that never aired till years later. But then he did appear in an episode called The Menagerie, where Pike had been paralyzed by an accident. I forget what happened exactly, but he was allowed by this planet of telepaths to basically live a comfortable life outside of his physical body, if that makes sense. So, or with Pike, he's living this idyllic life on the beach, and he's kind of just reflecting and wondering if he had made much of an impact, if he could have been a better captain or even a mentor. And he seems to have a special affinity for Spock, and he thinks of Spock often. And I guess like the fact that Spock and Pike, and there's another character in the book as well, who one of the colonists was also involved with this prior scrape with Dreen. And I guess that all connected Pike and the way he handled that situation. And so I guess it gives a little bit of a arc to Pike's story where, yes, he did make a difference, and Spock still considers Pike a big figure in his life. So that gave a little bit of an emotional core to the story. Of course, Spock ends up being okay, of course. I mean, everything ties up rather neatly by the end of the book. So it works for the most part. So, yeah, I mean, this had a very TV episode quality to it, and it was, it was. I would give it a solid B. If I was giving a book a grade, I would give it a solid B. So all right. Thanks for watching, and I will talk to you later. Bye.